Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and welcome back to the 2025 Radical Americas Championship. This is round number 3 of the season, coming to you tonight from Road Atlanta. My name is Ron Mullins. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Jeremy Scott. Ramiro Augustin Cisneros is our producer for tonight's broadcast. Jeremy, this Radical Americas Championship here for 2025 has had 2 brilliant races to keep it going, but we head to an absolute stunner of a racetrack here at Road Atlanta. These SR10s can put on some brilliant racing around this track, so I have a feeling this 60-minute long race that we have coming up is set to be a barn burner.
It really is, especially because with the SR10s, this is almost a perfect track for it, because you have the curves of the S's and you have the long back straightaway. Oh, you also have a nice braking zone there as well, going into 10 and 10A. Lots of elevation changes. I'm looking forward to seeing what these SR10s can do here around the under 2-mile circuit.
Yeah, and Road Atlanta, an absolutely fantastic ride in the world of racing and just a part of a brilliant schedule that we have. Here's how it's shaking out at the moment. Had the Nordschleife and Road America already. Road Atlanta, of course, playing host to the 3rd round here this evening. Gonna be heading to Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on May the 18th. Interlagos will host the 5th round of this championship. The rest of the season set to be determined, as we still do not have the schedule for these upcoming seasons. Of course, these and the European Championship following the same schedule that the official Radical Esports Cup series runs here on the iRacing platform. And looking at some of the fantastic prizes on offer for these drivers and these teams at the end of this season. Some drivers looking to win their first championship, others going back to back. Some pretty good prizes on offer, some iRacing subscriptions, some free tracks, and some tickets into the Radical World Finals later on this year here in 2025. Some pretty good prizes on offer for these drivers and these teams if they just so happen to do well between now and the end of these seasons coming up in the fall. But we're still very early on into this season here for 2025 in the Radical Americas Championship, but it's still giving us a pretty good opportunity to take a look at those championship points, which will load up here in a couple of moments time. In the pro standings, Ubaldo Diaz is your current championship leader, 190 points on the board for the driver who won the race at Road America last time out. John Bodefer is slotted in 2nd. Graham Sanders is in 3rd. Ryan Odo just barely behind in P4, won the opening race of the Nordschleife, but after some tough luck at Road America, is slotted in P4. Aiden Young is in 5th. Lucas Vieira, your reigning champion in the pro category here in the Radical Americas Championship, is slotted in P6. Diego Zuccarelli, Cameron Martineau, and David Unger rounding out your 9 drivers currently classed in the AM standings. Oh, in the pro standings, I should say. Here are the AM standings, where it's Jose Gonzalez leading it at the present moment, 139 points on the board. Colby Buck slotted in 2nd. We have Chris Reagan in 3rd. John Benlid in P4. One of our colleagues here at RaceSpotTV, Mr. J.R. Gregory, is currently slotted in P5. Charles Krasik, those two now partnered up and also partnered up at 102 points in those AM standings. Adrian Fernandez, Cedric Oyahan, Alfredo Souza in P9, and Jericho running out your top 10 in the AM standings. Here's how it looks in the Teams Championship. Hydra Race Geodesic Racing is your top team in the pro standings. Team ERC slotted in P2. In the AM category, Flying Line Racing, consisting of J.R. Gregory and Charles Krasik, currently at the top in those AM standings. Still time for drivers and teams to enter this series. We're waiting all the way until round 4 until we can really set the grid for the rest of this season. So if you are interested in joining the Radical Americas Championship, just look up Radical Sim Racing on the internet and you'll be able to find your way to this absolutely awesome league. Had the privilege of covering this series in 2024 and have the opportunity to do it again in 2025, and it is some barn burners of races week in and week out. 60 minutes of racing action set to get started here in the not too far off future, in the midst of qualifying here with about 4.5 minutes already on the board. So we'll switch over to that qualifying coverage here in a couple of moments time and look at how these drivers are doing. But first, let's take a look at the highlights from the last round of this championship at Road America. It was a barn burner of a race at that draft heavy racetrack, and here you can see the start of this 60-minute long race. Ryan Odo, you can see him in that very striking liveried car, slotted in 3rd in this clip, as we saw a swaparoo at the front of the field. Some drivers coming to blows, heading down into the pits. Super tricky to try and get that pit entry right, and will be yet again here at Road Atlanta. That was a heartbreaking mistake for Odo in that number 15 car. He's a quick driver, proved that the race prior at the Nordschleife, but at Road America ran into some difficulties. It all came down to a battle of nerves towards the end of this race, with some strategy playing a huge factor in how things would shake out. Jose Gonzalez was pretty dominant in the AM category, but still had some swaparoos throughout the rest of that class at the front of the field. It was a heads-up fight involving Ubaldo Diaz and John Bodefer. Bodefer playing the strategy game, heading down pit lane, shifting up and down to try and gain a little bit of speed, and actually helped him out towards the end of that race as well. Here was a nice battle involving some of the AM competitors. Look at Chris Reagan hounding the back of John Benlid, heading down the end of that back straightaway off into turn number 5. Those drivers put on a brilliant race. A couple of weeks ago from this championship, when everything was said and done, Ubaldo Diaz in the 108 car was your victor. A heartbreaking mistake towards the end for John Bodefer actually dropped him down from P2 all the way down to 4th, but Diaz in the Vima Racing Team 108 car was able to capture that checkered flag at Road America, and it was a photo finish right at the end with Graham Sanders and Aiden Young, covered by practically nothing at the end of over an hour of racing action. So that's how it looks up to this point of this season, but now in qualifying here, Jeremy, a couple of more minutes left for these drivers to get done in this solo session, a qualifying session, which, despite the fact it's a 60-minute race that we have coming up, still going to be super important.
It really is, and what's interesting is Aiden Young has been the fastest all long, who is now fastest. Ubaldo Diaz, 100th of a second off of a faster than Aiden Young's time. As we take a look at Alfredo Sosa going through Sector 1 on the elevation change here. You have a chance to go. I highly recommend it, because what you see here in the game, what you see on the TV, does not do this place justice.
Yeah, and this track is an absolute gem in the world of iRacing, and just in the world of racing, period. The event that everyone knows comes from here, the Motul Petit Le Mans every single fall. One of my favorite sports car racing events, personally. And outside of that, Road Atlanta has played host to some absolutely wonderful events over the years. This track opened all the way back in 1970, and since then, it has played the host to a boatload of events. Really, looking through the events that have been run here over the years, it beggars belief. Of course, I mentioned Motul Petit Le Mans, held back here first in 1998, and has been held every single year since. The SCCA runoffs were held here from 1970 all the way up until 1993. Those runoffs currently being held at a different road track, that being Road America up there in Wisconsin. But Road Atlanta is still an absolute gem in the world of racing. 2.54 miles, just a tick over 4 kilometers. This 12-turn road course in Braselton, Georgia, opened all the way back in 1970. As I said, it took only 6 months to construct, and the last major change came all the way back in 1998 when they added in that turn 10 chicane, which is going to be a premier overtaking opportunity for these drivers throughout this race we have coming up. Really looking forward to it.
Really will, and I've actually
sorry.
No, sorry. I was gonna say, that turn 10 chicane right there, I've actually heard stories of drivers who've raced there before then, and it was hair raising. So you just go straight down and through the bridge a heck of a lot faster than you do these days. But it really makes for a prime passing opportunity as well, as you mentioned.
Yeah, talk about hauling the mail. Back in the day when that was just a long flat out blast, it was tense. It was scary for the drivers of the day. And even if it was flat out to this day, that would be rather terrifying. Everyone, I'm sure, has probably seen the clip of one of the old Porsche prototype cars back here in the 90s, and one of the first runnings of Petit Le Mans taking off on that back straightaway. It wasn't even in that section, but if we were flat out from the exit at turn 7 all the way through exiting and over that Fox Factory Bridge, what is now the exit of the turn number 10 chicane. If that was flat out to this day, that would be absolutely terrifying. It would basically be a giant ramp for these drivers, even in these SR10s. Some very downforce heavy race cars. You can see the aero work on these SR10s. They are wonderful race cars, though. I've had the privilege of covering Radical SR10 action here on the iRacing platform for over 2 years at this point. Been a fantastic evolution to see this community grow and see these cars get ever more racy with every single passing season. But this qualifying session is officially done and dusted. I think we'll be able to get that starting grid loaded up for you in just a couple of moments' time. It'll be Ubaldo Diaz starting from the pole. Aiden Young set to join him on the front row. John Bodefer in third. Ryan Odo in fourth. Lucas Vieira, the reigning champion, looking to grab his first win of the season, will start in fifth. Next to Graham Sanders in the 100 car, starting in sixth. In P7, we have Jose Gonzalez. In P8, we have Jarrett Dunovich, a new driver to this series. Adrian Fernandez is a veteran of last season. We'll start this race in ninth. John Benlid running out our top 10. We have David Unger in 11th. Colby Buck starting in 12th. We have Cedric Oyahan in P13. Charles Krasik in P14. J.R. Gregory starting right behind his Flying Line Racing teammate in 15th. Joel Jacklin in 16th. Alfredo Souza in 17th. And Luis Miguel Pires will start this race in P18. Rounding out our starters in this race that we have coming up, 60 minutes in all, and it is going to be a tough one. 2 pit stops that we will see out of these drivers in this race coming up, and also have a standing start to worry about as well. That always creates a bit more tension when it comes to the start of these SR10 races. You can see track conditions rather high, relative humidity at 84%. 25 degrees Celsius is that track temperature. That's 77 degrees Fahrenheit for those looking for that brand of measurement. This is going to be a very fun race, though. That runoff into turn number 1 at the very start of this race, going to be tense, going to be hair-raising, going to be scary for these drivers, hauling the mail, having to lick the stamp and send it, heading off through that section at the very beginning of this race. But let's brace ourselves for another fantastic race here in the 2025 Radical Americas Championship. The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. Pretty good start from the 108 of Diaz. He will try and lead them comfortably, heading off into turn number 1. Some side-by-side racing going on right behind them, though, 2 by 2 as they head their way off through turn number 1. Ryan Odo looking to right the wrongs of the race at Road America about a month ago and try and stake his claim on another win this season. He's looking pretty fast. His teammate of Vieira looking to follow him as well, but as they head their way all through the S's, it's Ubaldo Diaz leading from the pole.
And single file through the S's so far is everybody kind of finding their way out after the first couple of corners. Young, though, trying to hold off Bofuter and Odo as well. Graham Sanders making a position up to 5th as Adrian Fernandez is falling back into 10th.
Yeah, Adrian Fernandez not having a very good start in the 127 car. Jose Gonzalez on the 21 having a pretty good start, running in 7th as it stands at the present moment. So very early on into this race. That's some side-by-side racing involving Fernandez and Dunkovich, though. May end up seeing a swapperoo between those competitors as Graham Sanders looking to get some moves done as well down into turn number 10. That's an attempted overtake on Vieira, not close enough. Meanwhile, right behind him, some racing involving Benlid and Gonzalez, as all throughout this field, these drivers decide to make hay while the sun is shining. With this field packed together in like sardines, they want to get these moves done as the field's still close.
And of course, going into turn 10, Odo up to 3rd place. But really, Diaz, the name of the game so far, is he's taking that 108 to a 7/10 of a second lead early on, as Young trying to do all he can to catch up to Diaz. And looking like that Diaz just really able to open up that gap just a little bit as he heads down the back part of the straightaway. Lots of rises and falls, so plenty of time though. As we said, 58 minutes left in this race. Anything can happen with the 2 pit stops. We'll see what kind of strategy plays in their hands then.
And still waiting to see who is going to try and throw anything at the wall and see what sticks when it comes to that pit strategy. Some side-by-side racing continuing on right behind. That's a fight between Dunkovich in the number 9 car and Benlid in the number 8. They were running exactly where their car numbers would suggest they would, but now they've swapped a route. That's Dunkovich jumping up to 8th. He may be on the charge, trying to claim that AM lead from Jose Gonzalez at a pretty fitting win last time out at Road America. Gonzalez still holding on to a P7 as it stands at the present moment. And a reminder to anyone who hasn't seen this series before, these drivers are scored based off of their overall finishing position. A P7 result means exactly the same thing whether you're a pro or an AM competitor. Gonzalez looking for a pretty good points haul here at Atlanta.
We are on board with Ryan Odo, and I like this shot because it shows how tough those S's really are. You want to touch them, but you don't want to hit them too hard. It's Beaufort, that's who we're actually on board with, my apologies, as he is chasing down the 15 of Ryan Odo, still keeping up with that battle for the lead, and that has shrunk in half with Young under a half second behind Diaz. As we said, Aiden Young, the star of practice so far, but Diaz running that fast lap to get the pole.
But you've still got Aiden Young right in tow, the driver of that 427 car, a very fast sim racer. And ever since he joined this series from the opening race at the Nordschleife, he is pretty quick. Now he's trying to get a move done down into the final corner. That would have been some bold stuff from the young American. Trying to get done on Diaz, clearly trying to force this issue a little bit. Cedric Ohayan has had some sort of difficulties in the number 44 car, has dropped down to P16 at the front of the field, though Diaz withstanding that challenge from Young, at least for now.
I think back there we also saw Graham Sanders go a little bit off coming off the final corner. We're on board with Aiden Young as he's trying his best to keep up to Ubaldo Diaz, your leader. That lead is now shrunk to 0.3 of a second. So Young, he's got that car finally hooked up. Only took a couple of laps, but those battles for third and fifth back behind this battle, they've kind of stretched out just a little bit as well.
Yeah, we do have a bit of a breakaway forming at the front of the field. Still a lot of time left to go in this race, though, for them to get vacuum sealed together once again. We're doing split screen. We got that battle for first, which may heat up yet again, heading at the end of this back straightaway down into the turn 10 chicane. Aiden Young looking oh so close to the back of Diaz, but not close enough to try and think about going for a maneuver. We saw in that official race last Friday here on RaceSpotTV, the fact that it was decided heading down into that chicane for the last time. That's how these races usually go at these SR10s at Road Atlanta. Gonna see a case of that yet again here in the Americas Championship. Bodefer involved in a pretty intense battle at the present moment. He's in the midst of a ECR team sandwich, as ERC team sandwich, I should say. Got the other letters confused there, as Ryan Odo, one of those drivers, is slotted in third at the moment in the number 15 machine, right in front of Bodefer, and Lucas Vieira, Odo's teammate and championship rival from 2024, is slotted right behind.
Ron, one thing that I noticed is most of the track Diaz is quick, but from turn 10 all the way through turn 1, that's where Aiden Young is really, really good. He got close to that rear diffuser of Diaz, down that front straightaway, still not able to make anything happen. Now we're starting to see Young reel in Diaz, but the longer this battle's going to go on, you're going to see Odo, Beaufort, Vieira, and Sanders all catch in. As right now, side by side through turn number 10. Aiden Young has the advantage so far, but I'll say this, it's not going to last that long, or will it? Diaz cuts in front, shuts the door on him, and Ubaldo Diaz leads yet another lap. And here comes Aiden Young to the inside. You don't want to do that in turn 1.
Oh, they made it work. I'm not sure how they did it. I don't think those drivers know how they did it. Aiden Young fighting oh so racy, and they come to blows. Oh. That's heading down into turn number 3. Diaz going for a wild spin off the track. Young was oh so racy. He wanted to grab that lead no matter what it cost. That's not going to win him a fan in Diaz. He is going to be fuming behind the wheel of that 108 car. But Aiden Young in that WSR Esports butt kicker car is at the front of the field. But in all of that, Ryan Odo, John Bodefer, and Lucas Vieira, they're all within about a second as well. So Aiden Young, as much as he got that move done and Diaz is out of the picture, at least for now, he is still not out of the woodwork.
Yeah, that turn 3 is just so deceiving. Here's a replay of that. And I don't know if that was contact or net code, because I don't think they fully made contact. Let's take a closer look at that later on. But yeah, not good for Diaz as he falls all the way back to 7th place behind your AM leader, Jose Gonzalez. But this has given Odo a chance to catch up and play Spoiler here is he wants a piece of that lead as well.
Yeah, and now it is a brawl at the front of the field. The best way that I could really describe this is that Aiden Young, in the process of trying to kill a cat, he gave a loaded shotgun to a bear because he got Diaz taken care of in the 108 car. I was going to say no harm, no foul. Harm and foul done to Ubaldo Diaz with a little bit of netcode hang down to turn number 3, sending him wildly off the track. Now 6.5 seconds back of your race leader of Young. But in the process of getting that move done to jump into the race lead, he now found himself the lead car of an absolute hornet's nest at the front of the field. Gonna take a look at a slow motion replay of all of this. Yeah, that was definitely netcode for sure. You could see the way that 108 car of Diaz jolted. Should be noted that as much as these drivers are all in the Americas, now, North and South America, they're pretty big places in the world. So comparing the connection from Aiden Young, the young American on the East Coast of the U.S., comparing that to Diaz in Mexico, you're not going to be able to have your two internet connections speak on the same wavelength. And, I talk about some of these drivers running in different locales across the world. David Unger, haven't really mentioned this throughout this broadcast. He's from Australia. So we got a whole bunch of different drivers with a whole bunch of different connection issues running in this race, and it's just a part of sim racing at the end of the day. Tough to have netcode, but at the same time, it's just part of the game.
Well, of course, Aiden, we know how many series he runs. We see him all over iRacing, and he's a fairly clean driver. So to see that initially before we knew it was netcode, that kind of makes a little bit more sense. You can throw a blanket on now the top 5 as they're all in single file coming off of turn number 8. They'll head into turn number 9 here shortly. Straightaway that's not so straight at Road Atlanta as they come out under the Motul Bridge. You take a look on the bottom right. That is the separation between first, second, and third, as well as fourth, as Odo's going to try and close up, but he's going to think better of it going through turn number 10. You don't want to force the issue there because the kitty litter is very inviting.
Yeah, that kitty litter, the gravel traps around this racetrack, they are hungry for your safety rating. And we're going to see a lot of these drivers potentially go for some off-track excursions heading off through there, and potentially as well drag more gravel onto the racetrack with the new reworked off-track physics that we have in iRacing. May have to see something like that. Who knows? There's still a lot of time left to go in this race for some of these corners to get turned into a rally special stage. Do want to raise one thing, though. As much as that moment for Ubaldo Diaz was a big kick in the shins, it's actually benefited his AM teammate of Jose Gonzalez. Giving that draft to Gonzalez in that 21 machine actually allowed him to pull away from Jared Dunkovich. So that is a bit of a softening of tensions at the front of the AM category. Still not what Ubaldo Diaz had in mind, but hey, salvage the best out of a bad situation, I guess. Help out your teammate in the midst of all that.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, especially in spite of it being separate classes. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that your teammate gets that nice little advantage there. We're on board with Joel Jacklin in 14th, also still watching the battle for first. Odo trying to do all he can to keep up with Aiden Young, but Aiden's got every answer that's been thrown at him that Odo has in terms of questions. We see Aiden Young using that inside line as a pick. And I've got to say this, you've heard this phrase before, Ron, also, Young's just the cork in the bottle waiting to pop.
He's a cork in the bottle, or potentially he's going to be that thumb over the outlet of a hose that's just been turned on, and that water is going to be just pressure washed out. Look at some side-by-side racing on the bottom of your screen involving J.R. Gregory. He's involved in a Hornet's nest with himself, his teammate of Krasik, and Joel Jacklin in the midst of all of that as well, the 125 driver. All of these competitors running in the AM class, and they are battling for, this would be P5 of the AM competitors, P13, P14, and P15 overall in this race. So a lot of these drivers involved in absolute Hornet's nest, despite the fact that we already have a decent chunk of this race in our rear view mirror. Still a long way left to go, but it's already started to fly by.
It really has. And seeing these two battles, it just goes to show whether it's in iRacing or in real life, you're going to have somebody to race with in Radicals. And if you're thinking of jumping in, highly recommend it because it is a lot of fun. This gaming community is really a blast, as we saw Graham Sanders look to the inside of Lucas Vieira going through turn number 1. Also, this battle for 13th heats up J.R. Gregory making his way around as Joel Jacqueline's going to lose 2 spots or in both the overall and in the AM, and looks like we're going to have one into the pits, starting the pit stops.
The pit cycle has now officially begun. Gregory, he is greeting the race fans who are tuning into this broadcast with his first run down pit lane. And let's see how that works out for him and Jacqueline. That's an early call to pit for those competitors. But hey, they have 2 pit stops to worry about. And we have seen some pretty off-the-wall strategies in the 2 races we've had thus far. They've worked out pretty all right. Let's see if it works out here at Road Atlanta. You'll have to play that strategy game as best as you possibly can. But at the same time, this is a race where it's not going to be completely decided through strategy either. This is a track where these drivers can get those overtakes done at. They can make their moves out there on the circuit. They won't have to worry about just making up maneuvers, making up spots only through pit strategy. And that's one of the things I love about the SR10. Unless you're running on a track that's basically 1 lane wide and a constant turn. I don't know, if we were running on the centripetal circuit, maybe a little bit tricky to get a move done. But everywhere else, it is fair game to get an overtake done, as Ubaldo Diaz, Jose Gonzalez, Sean Benlid, and Dunkovic, along with Adrian Fernandez and David Unger, all deciding that now's the time to pit. I think we may see these drivers at the north end come in too.
I was just about to say that, yeah, Young, Odo, Beaufort, and Vieira, as well as Sanders, most likely will come into pit, and we'll see if that helps out Diaz, but not sure now. Sanders finally gets around Vieira for that 4th spot for now, but gonna be interesting to see this pit strategy.
Yeah, the pit strategy going to be huge in this race. So we have coming up as a black flag for Charles Krasik. That is going to sting. The 153 machine picking up a penalty. It is going to be J.R. Gregory, and J.R. Gregory alone flying the colors of that Flying Lion Racing Team. Try saying that 5 times fast. Here come the front drivers. Aiden Young being joined in the pits by Ryan Odo, John Bodefer, Graham Sanders coming into the pits as well. You can see him in the 100 car pulling in the back of shot. Lucas Vieira in the 16 pulling in as well. This is going to be the money stop for these competitors. And let's see if we're going to see a repeat of the strategy played by some of these competitors at Road America last time out. Do a little bit of shifting down pit lane to bypass that pit lane speed limiter just a little bit. I'm not sure if you've ever done that, Jeremy, but it can gain you a little bit of time. And these drivers ever being the opportunist that they are, try saying that as well 5 times fast, will go for that and try and find any way in the book to gain some speed. Bodefer out with a very early run through the pit lane. Graham Sanders exiting out in front of Aiden Young as well. We're going to be seeing these drivers go for some off-the-wall strategies and the process of that short filling potentially on this first stop.
That's a smart idea to do that in the first, because now you can run as hard as you can, get ready for that second pit stop. Of course, the drivers that just came out, they've got Ubaldo Diaz, who is on a little bit warmer tires, as he has an extra lap on them that everybody else does. And it looks like Aiden Young, we're watching him going around the circuit in 3rd place. So lost 2 on that pit strategy. You'll see if he can make that up here in the next couple, not only the next couple of laps, but the next couple of, the next pit stop, I should say. And trust me, Ron, I am a professional broadcaster, you know, in the city of Chicago, and even I mess up, as you can tell right now. Here's battle for 11th.
Yeah, this battle is looking very, very intense, and I'm surprised I haven't broken out the Nick Fleck Blarney Quando Fleuren at some point during this broadcast, knowing well, like I probably just jinxed it. I'm going to start speaking in tongues in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nope, we're still good, at least for now. The battle for 11th is still pretty intense, involving Colby Buck and J.R. Gregory. You just barely see him in the back of shot, but Joel Jacqueline still within striking distance of these 2 as well, with them going side by side. That'll probably bring the 125 car into this side-by-side, heading down through the braking zone into the turn 10 chicane. Buck trying to withstand that challenge from Gregory with a sideways snap. Oh, he saved it. How did he do that?
A wing and a prayer, it looked like, because that could have been nasty if it would have all gone wrong, as we're watching Cedric O'Hagan, and of course he had that spin off there in turn number 10 and has spin in turn number 5 once again. This time heavy contact with the wall, but he's able to get going. Almost reminds me of that viral video that's going around the interwebs of the driver. It's Zolder who decided that they were going to take their Porsche for a roll cycle and continuing on.
I have yet to see that clip, albeit I strangely enough, despite being 20, I try and remain off the internet as much as I possibly can. I've been on Twitter for far too long. I think 2017 was when I joined Twitter in the first place, and I think I've seen enough on that on that website. Too many ads that I've had over the years that just leave me with like a mild frontal lobe migraine and a lot of questions in my head. Here's some battling involving Jacqueline and Buck. J.R. Gregory still within striking distance of these drivers as well. They single file out heading through that chicane, but on exit, Jacqueline having a terrible run. That's going to allow Colby Buck to lick the stamp and send it. He gets a move done. Gregory gets another move done on Jacqueline as he had a major trip up heading through that section. They just carried way too much speed into the entry of that turn 10 chicane. It was just all sorts of screwed up for the second part.
And it doesn't matter how much downforce you have, one wrong move and you're going to get swallowed up by 2 or 3 of your competitors, especially some quick ones here as we were on board with the 218 of J.R. Gregory. He's still got Jacqueline behind him as well, so this battle for 11th looking pretty good. Ben Lid also trying to hold off Dunkovich for the 8th spot, second in the AM class, as those two drivers pitted together, but nonetheless going to make things a little bit dicey here going into turn number 10. You got that battle, the battle for the lead, battle for 11th spot. So a lot of great battles here as we've already gotten what I would say, if I'm doing my math correctly, a third of the race in.
Yeah, rapidly approaching upon the first third of this race being done and dusted, hitting that mark in about 10 seconds time. John Bodefer is your race leader. Graham Sanders slotted in P2. Your current leader in the AM category for the second week in a row is Jose Gonzalez. A bit of a cushion in that category is Sean Benlid, who are falling right now in the number 8 car as some more pressing matters on his hands in the form of Jared Dunkovich making his season debut here from the Radical Americas Championship. That number 9 car joining us at the right time to put in a performance worth noting. That driver is running quick. He has been a thorn in the side to Ben Lid ever since the drop of the green flag, but those two cars covered by nothing. We may see a side-by-side fight off at turn 10 here soon.
And something I noticed, I don't know what car that was, but there was a spin back there in turn number 5 when we were watching that battle. We're watching this battle as well. That's the battle for the lead between teammates, Beaufort and Sanders. We know that Sanders is quick, and he was able to reel in, believe that was Vieira there for 4th place just on the in lap. Let's see what he can do here as they work their way through 3 and 4. Nose to tail, quick pit stops for the two of them. We're also watching this battle for 8th place. Not side by side yet, but Ron, I agree. It's just it's not a matter of if, but when we see these two go side pod to side pod.
And let's see how long it is going to take before we start to see these battles flare up all throughout this field. Firmly into the second stint are lots of these drivers up and down the grid. Again, 2 stops going to be the name of the game for these competitors throughout all of these races this season, as side by side between the teammates Bodefer and Sanders doing a swaparoo, heading down that straightaway and not really contending for it is Bodefer. Graham Sanders getting that race lead. Bodefer not really putting up too much of a challenge in that number 67 car, which, considering how things look at the moment still early on into this season, can't say that is a bad call for those two drivers. Decide to do a quick little swaparoo, not fight it too hard, and bring the likes of Aiden Young and others back into that front pack fight. Just enjoy your spot, enjoy the drafts, get those fuel numbers, and be able to be in the coast lane for the end.
Yep, that's the key right now. Get Aiden Young as far away from you as you can. That way you don't have to fight too hard coming out of the pits. Smart move by the teammates as they work their way through turn number 5. Ooh, not so smart to dip a wheel off, but nonetheless still keeping it about 2.5 seconds between the leader and between Beaufort and Aiden Young. Here's Joel Jacquelin's off. Oh God, that was a hard hit.
Oh. That was a big moment for the driver of the 125 car, heading down through the S's with a pretty wild ride, hopping up and down like a bunny in the grass. And unfortunately for Jacqueline, that's got to put some pretty significant damage on that 125 car. And he tried to rejoin the racetrack, but was still a little bit sideways and squirrely with grass on those tires. That's Beaufort jumping up to the race lead. Graham Sanders now slotted in P2. The game of leapfrog going to continue between these racers, but as they continue to play it, let's keep an eye on that gap between themselves and Aiden Young. It's now 2.4 seconds. A matter of not terribly long ago, it was slightly bigger than that. It's not going down by huge margins lap after lap, but those small little incremental gains, doubly so considering these drivers will very likely have a longer stop come time for the second stop of this race. That's going to be sketchy, as here's Alfredo Souza with a very interesting interpretation of track limits, hanging off through the S's into 5.
Well, it's just a new class for Rallycross. The Radical Cup class goes to turn number 5, no harm, no foul. Something interesting too. Beaufort with his fastest lap of the race is past time by 14.76. Sanders with a 15.2, 14.7 out of Aiden Young. So you got Young starting to really put the pedal to the metal and try and keep up with the leaders.
Yeah, I think Aiden Young really realizes that it is the time to turn up the wick in that 427 car. These drivers still swapping away at the front. Graham Sanders now in front of his teammate of Beaufort. Ryan Odo is within striking distance of Young as well, which may be part of the reason why that 427 car is starting to turn up the wick ever so slightly. Odo and Diaz are the ones who have grabbed victories thus far this season. Aiden Young, though, he's had the speed to contend for both wins thus far, just has not been able to seal the deal at the end of it all. A battle for 8th involving the two drivers running P2 and P3 in that AM category. That's Dunkovich getting a moved on Benlid, who ran a little bit wide off through the turn 10 chicane and loses that on spot.
Yeah, that didn't take as long as we thought it would, because they were just reeling in each other. But again, there's this lead pack. That gap has shrunk just a little bit between second and third, but nonetheless, Sanders and Beaufort are doing all they can to keep Aiden Young at pace. But back to that battle for 8th place. It was a good pass by Dunkovich, as Benlid not able to keep that position so far. And looks like that second round pit stops are underway, as Sosa's going to come in. He's going to make sure that he doesn't have nasty tires. Here's Pyers. Oh no, don't want to hit that. Yep, he's going to hit the wall.
An unfortunate moment for Luis Pires. Yeah, parking there very briefly, trying to get a grip with the whole situation and rejoin the race in that 963 car. Luis Miguel Pires, a veteran of this series, joined a couple of runs into 2024 and stayed on track throughout a vast majority of this of last season, and is out here on track for the 3rd time in 3 races here in 2025. Credit where credit is due to Luis Pires. This car is tough to handle, as our RaceSpotTV colleague, Mr. J.R. Gregory, has said many a time on some of those Friday official shows over the years. Mastery of the Radical SR10 will make you a better driver in just about anything that you race. Pires, very, very well done in terms of him showing up to these races week in and week out. He's not one of the drivers contending for the win. I don't think he would take offense to me saying that, but he's still racing out here. He's still getting a grip to these cars, and ever since his series debut, he has shown an intense amount of improvement. So credit where credit is due to the driver of that 963 car, throwing a P17 at the present moment. Souza currently down pit lane for coming up to 100 seconds. I believe the driver of the number 30 has potentially called it a day. I just wanted to give a shout out to Pires. You know, as much as our attention is usually on these drivers at the front, giving us these good battles and just throwing haymakers at each other, you need a field, and you need a field full of drivers who are just willing to show up week in and week out and be a part of this series.
Exactly. You know, everybody thinks, oh, well, you got to focus on the front runners. Well, you're not going to be a front runner if you don't start somewhere. So, yeah, great for Pires to keep showing up and just getting better. These cars are just tough, period. Whether it's in real life or if it's, in the game. Looking at the battle for first, there's Ubaldo Diaz sitting in 5th. Of course, remember, he pitted it 1 lap before everybody else ahead of him, so we'll see if he decides to stay out there. And, ooh, a little bit of an off there coming off of turn number 8. But they're going to see how the pit strategy works out for the 108, our pole sitter.
Yeah, how is this pit strategy game going to be played by these competitors? Are they going to play it well, or are they going to be struck by a falling anvil with a miscued trip through pit lane? We are going to have to think about that, as we are 1 minute and 50 seconds away from the halfway mark in this 3rd round of the championship. John Bodefer is still your overall race leader, although his teammate Graham Sanders has led this race as well. Aiden Young led in the early stages, but after that run through the pits, that was a bit on the slower end compared to those 2 teammates. It is P1 and P2. He is slotted in 3rd presently. Reigning champion of Lucas Vieira just got moved on to Ubaldo Diaz, who had a pretty rough start, got involved in some drama with Aiden Young, as currently slotted down in 6th. And right behind Diaz is Diaz's teammate, the AM leader of Jose Gonzalez, who won last time out at Road America, and is looking to do it yet again here at Road Atlanta.
So yeah, great battles all around. There's Pires slowing down, doing the gentlemanly thing, and letting Diaz go by. But look at how much closer Aiden Young is to this battle for the lead. And I'm starting to wonder if the team tactics of just, shift and lead, yeah, that's great for gas mileage, but was it great to maintain that lead? Here's Ubaldo Diaz. I believe we're going to see a replay here as, oh, he made contact with Pires. That's how he lost that spot.
Yeah, and that was, oh my good lord, that was Lucas Vieira coming in through turn number 1 and nearly made contact yet again with the 963 as he was stopped nearly on the outside line coming at turn number 1. That was a big miscue for those competitors. Not sure what in the world happened there, but nonetheless, that was a huge collision between those 2 competitors. Not sure if Ubaldo Diaz was just caught out completely by that slowing car of Pires or what, but regardless, big crash involving those competitors. Diaz, his night going from bad to somehow even worse.
And of course, now Diaz reeling in the 16 of Vieira. So Diaz trying to get back into the top 5 before he heads into the pits. Of course, Bodefer and Sanders, your leaders so far, they've decided, we're not going to dance around each other. Let's just get up front and keep Young behind us. Of course, keeping him behind you is one thing, saying it's one thing, doing it is an absolute other. On the bottom, Diaz, he's got the draft going into turn 10, getting on the inside of Vieira, side by side, nice little line there. Does he keep it? Yeah, he's got at least a car length between he and Vieira, but Vieira says he's not done yet.
Yeah, Lucas Vieira looking to hit the ground running into this season as a reigning champion, won the 2024 Radical America Championship in that pro category. He was quick, but he was consistent throughout that season as well. You're probably not going to see Vieira force this issue too much, but at the same time, I think a top 5 or even a podium at the end of this race would be music to the ears for your reigning champion. So let's see if we will have a swap-a-roo between those 2 racers. Now officially into the second half of this race, with 28 minutes and 40 seconds left to go in this event. Bodefer and Sanders still running P1 and P2. However, that gap between P2 and P3 of Sanders and Young is now teetering around just a tick over a second. So these drivers up towards the front of the field, even the gap with Young and Odo is starting to close up as well. So these drivers all converging on each other.
And of course, lap traffic is also helping, as we are seeing the duo of the 67 and the 100 dance around each other. Here's another incident with Pires through turn 4 and heading into 5. And here's the thing. I think what happened, and just slowing, letting the faster traffic go by, a smart move. But the more I think about it, that incident with Pires and Diaz had to have been Diaz not getting a little spooked by Pires' early brake zone. And that's going to happen the more you learn this car.
Yeah, and these SR10s, I'm not sure how much you've driven them on the iRacing platform, Jeremy, but they are so sketchy when it comes to the brakes. There is, I would say, probably a 5% margin between not being able to slow down in time and just overshooting the corner by a country mile, or locking up both front tires, turning them into rectangles, and then slamming into a wall because you had no front end directional control of your race car. It is a very fine line that these drivers have to run, and these SR10 drivers, the tippy top in the world of iRacing, they're good because they are so confident into the braking zones, which, in terms of getting overtakes done, obviously super important, but just with the way these cars are and the way these season schedules are usually laid out, super important just to have that confidence and the comfortability to get onto that brake pedal and get these cars rolled up into the turns.
I moved into the Helmar Radio Ranch in Muscle Farm about 6 months ago, and I have yet to unpack my sim wheel, so I've got to do that, and I want to get the SR10 so I can play around with that. I have the SR8, and that is a breeze to drive. It is so fun to drive, and hearing some people who I know who've raced the SR10 in real life, that jives with what we're hearing, so I would love to see what happens. So here's what's interesting. Sanders made a pass into Bodefer into turn number 10. Well, now Bodefer's a half second behind. That's reeled in Aiden Young for second place to 1.3 seconds. However, it's about 1.7 seconds between Sanders and Young, so still too far away to make anything happen. But here's the thing, Ron, these lap cars, depending on how many more there are, these leaders might want to think about getting into the pits and kind of gapping themselves from them.
Yeah, if we do have these two racers at the north end of the field break up a teeny tiny bit, I feel like it's probably going to be music to the ears of Aiden Young. We talked about how these drivers are definitely playing that fuel-saving strategy. They will be eyeballing a pit stop here in the coming few minutes of this race. Now with 25.5 minutes left to go on the clock. For Graham Sanders and John Bodefer, though, if they have played this fuel-saving game well, they'll be able to come into the pits and come out of it rather quickly, and they'll build that gap once again between themselves and Aiden Young. However, if they've played this badly and they spent exactly the same time, if not a little bit more down pit lane than they spent in the last, Young, who had that long stop out of the way, done and dusted in the first pit call, he may end up being in the catbird seat at the end of all this. Got some lap traffic to worry about as well. You can see right in front of these competitors coming on to that back straightaway. That, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, may potentially be, it doesn't look like that is Joel Jacqueline. I believe that is David Unger in the other 154 car. Yes, it is Unger that they're dealing with. Heading down that back straightaway, got to choke those drivers out a teeny tiny bit, cause them to close up a bit more, and this is now going to be rather interesting that we're in the midst of this lap traffic. Will this be the determining factor to send these drivers down the pits?
I don't think it's going to be that way just yet, because looking at the real tracking that we have on our timing and scoring, there's maybe... So you got Cedric O'Hayton right there, and then you've got a big gap between there and Colby Buck. So once they get around O'Hayton, I should say, it's going to be smooth sailing for the leaders for the time being. So maybe they stay out a little bit longer knowing that, and then they get catch up to this clump up ahead of them of Buck, Gregory, and Fernandez. We'll see what happens here shortly. See J.R. Gregory there on the bottom part of your screen, and your leaders having to deal with the 44 here shortly.
Yeah, this is when we get into the point of the race where it is so tense, despite the fact the drivers are a bit more spread out. A lot of the things that are going to help or hurt these drivers a bit out of their hands at the present moment. When it comes to the pit strategy, obviously super vital, but it really all depends on what your competitors do at the present moment. Do they have a lengthier run through the pits compared to you? Are they a little bit more slick? Let's just wait and see. It's the point where these drivers are the most nervous and yet have the least control as to what happens. As we take a look through the field, Joel Jacqueline, Luis Miguel Pires now in the number 963 car, running in 17th. The last car still in this race, as Alfredo Souza has decided to call it a night in that number 30 machine. Still 17 cars running in this race, and a lot of them on the lead lap. Graham Sanders still in the race lead. Jose Gonzalez still your leader in AM, but we are going to be seeing this field come into pit lane for their second and final stint.
And it'll be interesting to see when that happens. Like I said, there's a big gap there as we're watching your 7th place driver, Jose Gonzalez, teammate to Ubaldo Diaz. Gonzalez, your AM leader so far, as the leaders overall and in pro, Sanders and Beaufort, run down that back straightaway. And really, this opportunity to get around the lap cars has opened up that gap between Beaufort and Young as well to about 1.6 seconds. So great timing by those two drivers. Let's see what happens as they come down. And it looks like, yes, they are going to make the stop into pit road for their second and final stop.
Yeah, and there they go. A little bit surprised that we're going to be seeing them come in as early as they are. Was probably expecting them to stay out a bit more, use that fuel saving to their advantage, but no, that will not be the case. They are joined down in pit lane by Ryan Odo and Cedric Ohayon, so more drivers deciding that now is the time to pit. There is Odo. Let's see, hits his mark. No, he doesn't. He overshot a little bit. I was going to say that looked a little bit hair racy from the number 15 car, and yes, that is going to be a pit lane overshoot out of the stall. That is the teammates of Graham Sanders and Beaufort. Ryan Odo going to have to spend a bit more time down in pit lane because of that overshoot. And look at that, that's Jared Dunkovich in the number 9 car, your current P2 runner of the AM competitors, coming out right in front of these drivers. This is not music to the ears to these racers. This is not a lapped car battle either. This is a battle for position as it stands presently. So the Hydro Race Geodesic racing cars, those teammates, they're going to be stuck behind a lapped car. This may be music to the ears for Young.
It might be, but then again, they may not have very long with Dunkovic ahead of them. Of course, they're also coming out on cold tires, so you got to stop and think about that as well, though. Here comes Sanders drafting off the back of Dunkovic. And they're going to go to the inside, at least Sanders will. Let's see if Beaufort decides to join his teammate. And he's a little bit too far away to make anything happen. He still flashes the lights to let Dunkovic know that he is the faster traffic and he is going to make that pass just before turn number 10. So we'll see if Dunkovic decides to go into the pits. Might not be a bad idea to go in, and no, he's at least got one more lap in as Gonzalez and Unger both come into the pits for their final pit stop.
Yeah, Gonzalez coming in from the lead in the AM category. At the north end of the field, though, Aiden Young staying out forevermore, so that's going to be an extra lap, may potentially be an extra 2 laps that he's staying out compared to some of his competitors. He came in at a slightly longer stop. I wonder if this is a strategy that Aiden Young has been planning all along. That's the thing when it comes to these SR10 Americas races, and the same with the European series, which you can catch here on RaceSpotTV as well. You see these drivers go for the off-the-wall strategies, and you don't really know what they're playing at until you get to this stage of the race where it's like, okay, we won't have to worry about pit stops. We just need to worry about pace and pace alone right towards the end. Aiden Young staying out for one more time. Will he come in the pits this time by? Will he stay out for yet one more lap? Remains to be determined. Ubaldo Diaz has come in from second. That will give P2 in this race as it stands presently to Lucas Vieira. Graham Sanders is still the leading car of the drivers who have come into the pits already. John Beaufort still within striking distance as well. If this strategy call turns out to be a dud from everybody else, and it is a battle between Sanders and Beaufort, again, this is a hypothetical, still need to see that pit stop from Aiden Young in that 427 car. How is it going to shake out with two teammates battling for a race win, both their first of the year?
That's going to be interesting to see what happens. You don't obviously want to have a situation where you're getting the gloves out and having them, going boxing 1-2 against each other. But we'll see what happens. I'm looking down the list of drivers. We've got drivers who have already pitted. Jared Gregory comes in after 21 laps, so would not be surprised to see Aiden Young go at least one more. Same with Vieira, because they're 20 laps into their stint. Other drivers with 21 laps, including Colby Buck, John Beaufort, and Jared Dunkovic and Benoit in the number 8. So a couple of great strategies here running that longer second stint. And
Aiden Young has stayed out for yet another lap in this race. and I wonder if that is going to be the winning call for him. You can see him heading his way off through the S's. I just want to raise, talking about some of the lap times that he has set thus far ever since that drop of the green flag. He's on lap 34 right now, and looking at the times, he hasn't been the quickest, but he has been consistent. His fastest lap of the race was on lap 3 at a 1 minute 14.316, but looking through, as of recent for Aiden Young, you're looking at 1:14.5, 1:14.5, 1:14.6, 1:14.7, 1:14.4, 1:14.6, 1:14.4, 1:14.6, 1:14.7, 1:14.6. He has been super consistent ever since the drop of the green flag. Just had a rather scary moment with Charles Krasik heading down the back straightaway off into turn number 10, as Krasik was very slow heading down that back flat out blast, but Aiden Young staying out yet again. Consistent lap times for the driver of the 427 car. He's not necessarily fuel saving, so I wonder what sort of hope and a prayer that car is running on at this point.
Well, here's something interesting. So right now, Sanders and Beaufort are 33 seconds behind Young. Delta time is 37 seconds for a short pit stop, 35 if he does what Diaz has and has a 13.4 pit stop. So if Aiden Young can continue on the tear that he's on right now, he might be able to pit at the last minute and still get ahead of the duo Beaufort and Sanders.
Now that would be a comeback drive from Aiden Young. That would be a statement performance as well for him to grab his first ever win in the Radical Americas Championship. He's a driver that I have experience commentating on. He is quick and has certainly proved that in the previous 2 races here in the Radical Americas Championship. Yet to grab that win, but he may be able to do it soon as a black flag in the air. That's for the number 9 of Jarek Dunkovic. That's not going to help out his cause at all in terms of battling for the win in that category. Jose Gonzalez going to get that move done as the number 9 car is stopped down in pit lane, and staying out yet again will be Aiden Young, that WSR Esports butt kicker driver. He's eyeballing a shot at a victory. He is throwing his entire race behind this strategy call. He's throwing it to the wall and seeing if it's actually going to stick.
Gonna be interesting, and I think that now you can say that he's gonna go for a very short pit stop. As we see Vieira throwing in the towel for his second pit stop, he's going to come down pit road. Now we're going to see on the timing tower the gap between Young and Sanders and what it's going to take. Again, we're starting to get into that delta period to where Aiden Young might be able to keep this lead, but it all depends on his outlap.
Yeah, it depends on what sort of situation he finds himself in when he comes out of pit lane. I've covered plenty of races, and Jeremy, I'm sure you've covered plenty of races yourself, where a driver has the perfect strategy. They have aced the race, they've been running smooth, then they come down pit lane and find themselves in the midst of an absolute hornet's nest, and it slows them down to the point where they lose out on the race. Look at Aiden Young with a huge sideways snap coming off the top of the hill out of turn number 10. He kept that car going in a straight line. I'm not sure if he knows how he did that, but he's come into the pits finally. That 427 car going to have a short stop. Only 14 minutes left to go in this race, so he doesn't have to fill it up with a world of gas. He just needs to come in, put a quick splash and dash fuel stop in, and then he'll be out of the way. That 427 car stopped in his pit stall now. He hit his marks well. Those drivers of Graham Sanders and Beaufort, they're riding their way around the final corner. They're hanging down that start finish straight away. Aiden Young, though, he's going to exit the pits. He's off the pit lane speed limiter, and he's going to take the race lead. It's going to be about 4 seconds of gap between those 2 cars. Aiden Young, though, going to find himself in the midst of a little bit of lap traffic with some cold tires as well. So that gap may change, but Young, he executed that strategy to absolute perfection.
10.4 the pit stop by Aiden Young. I was just looking at Lucas Vieira. I was kind of doing some rough math. He had 11.7, and he pitted a lap before Young. So I was thinking, okay, you know, maybe we will see a 10-second pit stop. And indeed we have. Talk about perfection in strategy with Aiden Young, even with cold tires, Ron. He's down to 3.9 seconds ahead of Graham Sanders.
Yeah, now that Aiden Young is starting to get into the groove of things, the tire temperature building yet again for that 427 WSR Esports butt kicker car. Let's see how it's going to shake out for Young. Graham Sanders will have to make a big swing at things if he wants to challenge. I wonder, though, if you are that geodesic team right behind, will you decide that Graham Sanders in that 100 car is the driver that can challenge Aiden Young? Or are you maybe going to look at the number 67 of Bodefer? We may end up seeing team orders swap-a-roo these drivers to say, hey, we're going to put our best foot forward. This is a driver that we want to have this challenge at the very end of this race. Looks like Sanders pulling away a little bit as I'm saying this from the front of Bodefer's car. So maybe Graham Sanders staying in front at least for now. But at the same time, this team, the Hydra Race Geodesic Racing car, this team, they had a good shot to win it, but Aiden Young, after the heartbreaker for the opening race of the season at the Nordschleife, where he took tires instead of just fuel with these SR10s of tires, not really something these drivers will consider in terms of pit stops all season long. But he had the short end of the stick in the opening race of the season at the Nordschleife. Here at Road Atlanta, though, it looks like the complete role reversal. Aiden Young pulling off a perfect strategy, and he now has 11.5 minutes left to hang on to that race lead.
Yeah, if I'm Hydra Race Geodesic Racing, I'm throwing my money behind Sanders, because we've seen how quick he has been when the chips are down. He's gotten that gap down to about 3.8 seconds. But yeah, Bodefer right now, I think, is probably the best choice at a wingman there, as Sanders, he's quick. Would not be surprised to see either of those two kind of challenge Aiden Young if something goes wrong. Now, knock on wood, nothing does, but still, Aiden Young has to deal with just a little bit of lap traffic here, as we see the battle for fourth as well between Odo and Diaz.
And once we get that lap traffic involved in this race yet again, that may be when these gaps start to shift a teeny tiny bit. The fight going to be intense between Odo and Diaz. Those are the two drivers to grab wins thus far this season. Diaz entered this race with the championship lead as looking to have a damage limitation here at Road Atlanta. Doesn't want to have a truly horrific race. These drivers do have a long season ahead, but at the same time, with a season with as few races as there is, you want to make sure there's no true stinkers in that calendar, as Diaz taking that run to the outside line, trying to at least look at the move on Ryan Odo. Not close enough to go for it, heading down into the chicane, but I think it is not over in terms of Diaz making his way up to the top four.
And it's a lot of what could have been for Diaz. Of course, he had the netcode incident earlier on in the race between he and Aiden Young in turn 3. He had such a stout car, but after that, it's just been kind of get that car back up. Had that incident as well with Pires in turn number 1, who, by the way, Pires is now out of the race in the number 963. So kind of sad to see. Would love to see if he could have strung the rest of the race together, but nonetheless, Pires calling it a day. Yeah, Diaz just trying to be salvaging what he has left, as Odo able to open up that gap heading into turn number 7, the right-handed, banked right-handed, I should say, turn now into 8. Looks like that Odo might have a little bit of battle with Diaz here with slower traffic up ahead.
Yeah, and that slow traffic going to be a big game changer for these racers. You deal with it well, you're going to get a boatload of time. You deal with it badly, you are going to be in for a world of hurt. Odo and Diaz covered by nothing, heading down into the turn 10 chicane yet again. Diaz still right behind Odo, but he's within striking distance, and he is using this opportunity to learn where Odo is going to position that car as it stands. So very early on into the season, I believe these two are going to be the ones that we have to talk about in reference to battling for this championship here in the 2025 Radical Americas Championship, as it is still a heads-up fight between those two. Not for the championship at the moment, but for P4 in this race. Any points can matter.
Exactly. The more points you can get early on in the season, the better you are later on. You don't have to worry too much about chasing down that championship. Speaking of, there's your leader in the AM class. It is Jose Gonzalez, sits 7th. He's got a plenty gap in front and behind him, but the more that this battle rages on, by the way, Vieira is closing in on the Odo-Diaz battle. You saw him just back there. But I think the longer that that battle goes on, we'll also see Gonzalez kind of reel in, even though he's about 25 seconds back from that battle. Side by side for fourth place as Odo and Diaz go neck and neck into turn number 10. Diaz has the line inside, but Odo shuts the door on him. Diaz had a nose out for just a little bit down the back straightaway.
And it is still going to be an intense battle right to the end of this 60-minute long race. We only have 7.5 minutes left to go. Only a handful of laps left for these competitors. And with that, only a handful of overtaking opportunities left for these two, though. The Hydro Race Geodesic Racing teammates of Graham Sanders and John Bodefer. You're running out of opportunities at the moment. That gap between themselves and Aiden Young has plateaued around that 4-second mark. There hasn't been any major inroads, but at the same time, there hasn't been any major gains. They're going to have to hope for Aiden Young to have some sort of mistake for them to reel him in. Hey, never say never. There's a lot that can happen at the end of these races based off my experience covering this series in 2024. I can assure you that much, but at the same time, a 4-second gap is still rather substantial. Aiden Young, if he pressured himself into a mistake, he would be kicking himself to the end of time. He's got that comfortable cushion. He really doesn't need to risk it with 6.5 minutes left to go on the clock. Let's see if anything is going to change. Here's a battle, though, involving Diaz and Odo. Odo holding on yet again at 2P4. Diaz was close. He looked for it on that inside line, but at the same time was just not close enough. Diaz still within striking distance, though, looking for a move around the outside through the final corner. That's some bold and audacious stuff, but now he's going to look for it down into turn number 1. That outside line just not a viable option here at Road Atlanta.
It's not, but Odo using that brake pedal just a little bit later than Diaz in those heavy braking zones. This battle for fourth, our best battle right now on the circuit, as Aiden Young comes around turn number 7 and into 8. He's got 3.8 seconds of space between he and Sanders, but still this battle for fourth up top is absolutely fantastic. It's a barn burner between these two drivers. Let's see what Diaz has for Odo. Past couple of times, he's tried to go to the inside of turn number 10. Almost had him a couple of laps ago, but didn't have him this time by. Drafting has been the key for Diaz, as this time he's going to look to what would be the outside of turn number 10. Diaz has a position. It's going to be a switchback, but Diaz shut the front door on him. Here comes Odo to the inside. They're still side by side through turn number 10, and Diaz gets a nose. He finally, after a couple laps, gets that fourth position.
That right there was a Road Atlanta shuffle down into turn number 10. Diaz, though, finally successful in that challenge to jump his way up to P4. Ryan Odo still within striking distance. And look at Lucas Vieira. He's within this pack as well. That's 0.7 of a second behind his teammate of Odo. But if these two drivers come to blows, he would be in the catbird seat to inherit P4, which would be a mighty result for the reigning champion here in the Radical Americas Championship. Aiden Young on track for a victory. 4.5 minutes left to go on the clock for him. Jose Gonzalez on track for the win in AM unless anything major changes there. 13.7 seconds is a gap between himself and John Benlid, your P2 runner presently of those AM competitors. But this battle is still going to be intense right to the end. That fight for fourth involving the likes of Diaz, Odo, and Vieira going to be super, super touch and go.
It definitely will. There's your AM leader, Jose Gonzalez, sitting in 7th place. Doesn't have to worry too much about who's ahead or who's behind him. He's going to be passing some lap down cars, but nonetheless, a nice, fantastic, clean race out of the Vima Racing team driver, again, number 21. And you've got to say this, he had that middle of the race help from his teammate, who's now locked in a battle for 4th place. As they go to the inside, Diaz shutting the door on Odo. Odo trying to go the high line around turn 1. Not very recommended there, but really now it's a tooth and nail battle between Diaz and Odo.
I think we're starting to see that number 15 car of Odo get a bit more racy, a bit more aggressive. He wasn't very happy with how things went for him towards the end of that Friday 2100 GMT broadcasted race here on RaceSpotTV just the other day. Wasn't happy about how that shook out for him. Spun out of a top 5 spot, ended up finishing, I think, only down in 10th. So Odo wasn't best pleased with his official adventures this past week. So here in the league, a mistake right towards the end of this race would be a heart-wrencher for the driver of the number 15 car. Started this season oh so right with a win at the Nordschleife. Things went awry last time out at Road America. He's looking for not necessarily a return to victory lane. I think at this point that's out of the question, but he's looking for a comeback as down the inside into turn number 10, licking the stamp and sending it as Odo, and he made that move stick. That was gutsy, and the young American made it work. It's still not over yet. Diaz looking to fight back.
Yeah, I think Diaz is going to try and go to the outside again. Odo taking that preferred line through turn number 1 and able to open up just a little bit of a gap, looking back, and Vieira is closed in as well on Diaz. So now make that a 3-car battle for 4th place between Odo, Diaz, and Vieira, as Diaz kind of resetting himself because there's about 2 laps to go. I think that Diaz is not done with Odo just yet as they go off the exit curbing there in turn number 5. They also have the 9 of Dunkovic ahead of them as well.
Yeah, it is still not done with these competitors. You can see that 9 car right in front. He's not very happy, is Dunkovic, with how things went for him in this race. Was on track for an AM podium, but after a penalty, he is going to be in for a real tough go of things in his series debut here in the Radical Americas Championship. Diaz fighting back to the inside line, though, down that back straightaway off into turn number 10 for the second to last time. He gets that move done, licking the stamp and sending it. Odo drops down to P5. He's got a good run on corner exit, though. He may try and go for the dive down into the last corner. That is at high speed, the highest of speeds, and running wide as Diaz. He's going to turn that SR10 into a lawnmower, coming out of the final corner for the second to last time in this race. Odo gets that move done. Vieira within striking distance as well. Aiden Young just started what I believe may be the second to last lap for him. Not entirely sure if that was the second to last lap for him or not. Yes, actually it was second to last lap. So white flag coming out next time by for your race leader of Aiden Young. But this battle is still intense. I think with this shakeup, Diaz may have used up all of his stuff. Odo put the fear of God in him.
I don't know. I think Diaz has at least 1, maybe 2 more moves left in him. How Diaz did not lose that car on that grass is beyond me. I can't tell you how many times I've seen drivers go 4 off there coming off that final corner. Is now Vieira side by side with Diaz. So I may even be mistaken, as down the straightaway, white flag is out for Aiden Young, but it looks like that Vieira has gotten ahead of Diaz. Now Vieira wants his shot at Odo.
And we may end up seeing a brawl between the 2 teammates. Those 2 were involved in a brilliant championship battle as a black flag for Ubaldo Diaz in the 108 car. That is a very unfortunate series of events for the 108 driver. One thing to raise: after 15 incident points, you pick up a black flag in these events, and I think that may have been what happened to Diaz. A tough moment nonetheless for the driver, who for 1 point was in the race lead, was thinking this one was his, but after an incident earlier on and a penalty right at the end, he is going to be in for a heartbreaking result at the end of this race. It's still P6, but that's not the result he had in mind. For Aiden Young, though, in this WSR Esports Butt Kicker 427 car, he joined this championship here in 2025 as a very accomplished sim racer. He was quick. Hadn't really seen him too much in the SR10s, but he has come into this series. He was fast at the Nordschleife. He was fast at Road America, and here at Road Atlanta for round number 3, Aiden Young going to seal the deal and get his first ever championship win here in the Radical Americas Championship. It's a win in round number 3. John Bodefer and Graham Sanders had a last-minute swap-a-roo for P2. I think Bodefer was able to get second at the line. Graham Sanders rounding out your podium in third. But for Aiden Young, that is going to be a fantastic result. His first win in this championship, and that may put him in that championship discussion as well.
It really has, and you got to hand it to Sanders. letting Bodefer be the wingman and say, you don't want to take second place. So kudos to the team there. But here comes Gonzalez around turn 10 and 10A, and he's come down through turn number 11. See the checker flag, and he's going to take that AM win as he will finish 7th overall, but take the AM win here at Road Atlanta. A fantastic and dominating performance in that class.
Oh, a brilliant performance for the second race in a row for Jose Gonzalez. One last time out at Road America and wins it yet again here at Road Atlanta. First driver to win multiple races across all of our classes will end up being that number 21 driver, so kudos to him, finishing in 7th overall. That's a pretty good points haul at the end of this race. Adrian Fernandez, who are following, is about to cross the line in a few moments time, but here are your results after 48 laps and 60 minutes of racing action here at Road Atlanta. Aiden Young is your winner, the driver of the 427 car, the rookie here in the Radical Americas Championship, putting in a brilliant performance to take his first ever Radical Americas win. He is joined on the podium by the Hydra Race Geodesic Racing teammates of John Bodefer in 2nd and Graham Sanders in 3rd. They have to talk about those two drivers when it comes to that championship battle. They have yet to grab a win, but they've been fast and they've been consistent as well. Ryan Odo finishing right in front of his team ERC teammate of Lucas Vieira. Those two drivers running at our top 5. We have Ubaldo Diaz finishing in a rather heartbreaking 6th, 37 seconds back of Aiden Young at the end of it all. He probably thought coming into this 60-minute long race that the win was going to be his, but instead he's going to have to settle for the first spot outside the top 5. Jose Gonzalez, though, in that Vima Racing Team number 21 car, is going to be super happy with his performance here at Road Atlanta. Is your winner in the AM category, finishing in P7. We have John Benlid crossing the line in the number 8 car, fittingly in P8. Adrian Fernandez right behind JR Gregory will round out your overall top 10, and the list of drivers continues on with the newcomer to the series, Jared Dunkovich, I should say, my apologies, finishing in P11. Kobe Buck finishes in 12th. David Ungar's class in P13. Cedric Ohayan finishes in 14th. Joel Jacklin in P15. Charles Krasik in P16. Luis Miguel Payorez finishes in 17th. And Alfredo Souza rounding out your 18 cars that are classified at the end of this race. And credit where credit is due to Aiden Young, saying the fastest lap of the race right towards the end. We said that his fastest lap of the race beforehand was set on lap 3. He was cooking it towards the end of this race. A brilliant performance from Aiden Young.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic, and we saw what was going to happen there at the end with the pit stop, and really it was faster than anybody thought, and he was still able to get ahead of Bodefer and Sanders. So kudos to Young, first win of the season. Pretty darn good for the driver, who really, anywhere he goes, he seems to be up near the front.
And now that we've gotten all the racing taken care of, we can have a chat with some of these drivers at the end of round number 3 of this Radical Americas Championship. And the first driver I want to have a chat with is going to be our pro winner for the first time in his Radical Americas racing career. Aiden Young now joining us in the commentary booth. Aiden, congratulations on the win here at Road Atlanta. How about you talk us through that race?
Oh, that was a fun one. Very sweaty race, if I must say. Road Atlanta is such a workout. Like, it's actually ridiculous. But I freaking love this track, man. I don't know what it is about the place, but every time I come here, I just have a ton of fun. And I think it shows my driving, because you know what the saying is, when you're having fun, you're going fast.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point to raise. You know, I remember back in my karting days, and now after that I've been out of the kart for coming up to 2 years at this point, I will always contend that the best days behind the wheel are the ones when you're having fun. When you're having fun and getting in a good vibe and a good groove, that's usually when you end up putting in the best performances. You got that lead early on with that move on Ubaldo Diaz, and then after that, you just did not look back. Had that brief hiccup in the midsection after that first stop, which was a bit on the longer end, but all playing to your effect when it comes to that strategy to be able to grab your first win of this season. You've been quick thus far, and we still got a long way left to go. So how are you feeling in terms of your pace heading into the future races?
Well, I mean, I feel pretty good. You know, it only took me 2 races to really find my speed and find a steady rhythm in the series, which is good always when you're learning a new car. If you can adapt quickly, then you're more likely to do better straight from the get-go. So thankfully, I was able to adapt to the car pretty quickly within the first few rounds, and then, you know, starting round 1, I got P6, then round 2, P3, and then now a win. So yeah, the momentum's building, and I'll just try to keep going with it, and, you know, we'll see if I can't try and repeat it at the next one.
Yeah, and certainly going to be seeing you contend for some more race wins throughout the rest of the season here in the 2025 Radical Americas Championship. Aiden Young, congratulations on your first win in this series. And before we let you go and celebrate, is there anybody you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, I'd like to, as always, thank my team, WSR Esports. You know, I wouldn't be able to pull these kind of drives off without them. They're awesome. They're such a good group of guys. They're always helping out their teammates, always making sure each one of us improves, and they're always providing us with the tools to go fast. And I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Abruzzi UK, Next Level Racing, Knight Rider Designs, and MB Cinematography. Those guys help out the team a lot. And then you guys at RaceSpot for the fantastic commentary and the broadcasts each round.
Well, thank you for the kind words at the end of that, Aiden, and always have to give the thanks to the sponsors for making it all happen. Well done on your first ever win in these Radicals, and excited to be back out on the track for the rest of the season.
Yep, see you guys next time.
And that right there was Aiden Young, your winner at the end of this race here at Road Atlanta. And Jeremy, who do you want to have a chat with?
Well, let's talk to our second place finisher, John Beaufort. Is got to be an interesting strategy between the two drivers. Thanks for joining us. Second place near the end. You and your teammate, Graham Sanders, had the lead for a while, tried to save some fuel in that second stint. But in the end, it was just too much to handle with Aiden Young just coming out ahead with great strategy. Talk us through that race.
Yeah, Aiden just had a little bit more pace in that middle stint on us. I think in the third stint we were matching him just fine, but yeah, just didn't have enough for him in the second stint. He was probably saving in the third stint, not really pushing too hard, but he had really good pace the whole night. So congrats to him.
Well, early on, it also seemed like your guys' first short stop probably was the winning strategy. What went behind that? Was this something that was planned ahead of time?
We usually try and guess what everyone else is going to do and try and do the same, or, you know, something similar. But, you know, we got a little bit of a bad luck coming out of the pits with traffic. And then even when we were pushing, there was a little bit of bad luck with traffic again. So not enough to really cost us, but, you know, every little bit helps a little, to put pressure on Aiden, but he was pushing really good in that middle stint to make up that gap.
And nonetheless, in spite of you guys having to deal with lap traffic in that final stint, you were able to keep up about the same pace as Aiden, as you mentioned. But nonetheless, both of you guys on the podium, that's got to feel really good going into the rest of the season.
Yep, just trying to keep on putting up good results. The wins will probably come, so just got to keep the nose clean on the car, and we'll give ourselves a chance to win one.
Yeah, that's half the key. Well, congratulations on that second place finish. Anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, big shout out to Hydro Race and GSI for sponsoring the car. Thank you.
John Beaufort with one of the, I think, the neatest paint schemes you can put on an SR10, finishing in second place. There's another paint scheme on there that would look just as good. Oh, wait, that's also his teammates as well, Ron.
Yeah, we got some very nice looking paint schemes all throughout this field, but one that always catches my attention is those flying line racing cars, and one of them being driven tonight by Mr. JR Gregory. JR, it's been quite a long time since we had a chat, about 2 days to be a bit more precise, after our time on the official broadcast this past Friday. So welcome into the booth, and well done on the performance here at Road Atlanta. Happy to talk us through it.
Oh man, that was awesome. I came in and practiced slow. I was all the way DFL in the back, and was a little worried about how this one was going to turn out. I usually drive over my head at Road Atlanta, and I was driving like underwater in practice. But stuff came my way, and Ron, you and I talked about that switchback in 10A and 10B. It's my favorite move at Road Atlanta, and I got to pull it off 2 or 3 times during this race, and I was just sitting in my seat laughing. I had an absolute blast out there, and I think I might have come away with hard charger as well. So it was an awesome evening for me, and also welcome to my new teammate, Charles Krasik. He had some problems, obviously, didn't turn out the way he wanted, but overall, a fantastic night.
Yeah, pretty good night for you and the team overall, outside of your teammate getting whacked with some penalties, which we didn't see from only one car. We saw from a decent chunk of the field. Rather tricky to keep those incidents down to a minimum. Second try is a charm, third try the charm, I think, with that one for me. But tough to try and keep those incidents down, 15x being the limit in a 60-minute long race. That's got to be tough to manage.
It is tough, especially here. I mean, you're always flirting right with the edge of the track boundary on turn 3, particularly. You got to jump that on every lap, and it's a blind corner where you have to commit kind of by timing and muscle memory, and you get it wrong every now and then, and they tend to stack up a little bit right there. And also, I think Charles had a pit limiter issue and got caught speeding in the pits. That was one of his problems.
That's so unfortunate nonetheless, but hey, a long way left to go from this season. Looking through the remaining calendar and looking forward to the next race of this championship. Going to be heading up to Montreal for the next round. So what are your thoughts heading into it?
I think that is going to be a hoot, man. The more of these F1 tracks that have slowly kind of leaked onto the Radical calendar and the public schedule have turned out in some excellent racing. The F1 tracks are really well suited to these cars, and obviously the old British hilly twisty ones are fun as well. But we've been getting some great racing out of modern F1 circuits, and I don't think Montreal is going to be any different. Really looking forward to it.
And really looking forward to continuing on the 2025 Radical America Championship. JR, always nice to have a chat with you. And before we let you go and move on with the rest of your evening out there on the West Coast, is there anybody you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yep, definitely to the new teammate, Charles Krasik. It was cool to see 2 flying line cars out there. Nice to see the livery out there at another car. Also, shout out to Joel Jacqueline. He was driving hard, and apparently he had a IT failure with his VR headset. That's why he dropped off, and that was a bummer. We had some really great dicing going on, and Buck as well. Him and I had a little bit of bumping and grinding, but more or less clean, and you always drive faster when there's somebody near you to kind of light the fire and get your adrenaline going, and Buck did that for me. So shout out to him and to you guys, and the whole Radical community. I'm just over the moon right now, a little adrenalized, but had a great night.
And certainly looking forward to seeing you back out on track for the rest of the season. JR, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on the good results.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And that right there was my old Radical buddy, Mr. J.R. Gregory, joining us here in the commentary booth. And with a rather lengthy race, I'm not sure if we have time for any more interviews. So, Jeremy, switching our attention to the next round of this series at Montreal. I know you're going to be a replacement here this evening, as our pal Ewan O'Leary is not present with us for this broadcast this week. But I know you're a big fan of Radicals, both on the iRacing platform and in real life as well. So that race up there in Montreal is going to be a hoot.
Oh, it really is, especially because it's treated as a street race. We see one street race in the Radical Cup North America Championship at Toronto. We see how well they race there. Would not be surprised to see a fantastic race once again. It is such a historic track, such a great venue for these cars. I think the SR10 is going to put on such a great show.
Yeah, and really looking forward to the rest of this Radical America season. Looking forward to the rest of the Radical action here on RaceSpotTV. You can catch the action from the Friday 2100 GMT top split broadcasted races here every single Friday evening on RaceSpotTV. You can also catch the action from the European Championship. They run about a week before these Americas broadcasts do. And if you want to learn more about the world of Radical Sim Racing, head on over to RadicalSimRacing.com to get involved with this fantastic community of growing iRacers with one of the most unique cars on the iRacing platform at its core. This was a brilliant night of racing action here at Road Atlanta, and hopefully all of you enjoyed this broadcast here on RaceSpotTV this evening. But as for it, I think that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Mullins, Jeremy Scott joining me in the commentary booth, and Ramiro Augustine Cisneros doing a wonderful job working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching this broadcast on RaceSpotTV tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.